Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central on News Central Television. It is another day for us to look at some of the biggest stories making the headlines, and definitely stories that you must know about. Today is another day, and we'll be taking a look at these stories for the next 3 hours, which means you're stuck with us and you have no other choice than to stay with us and get the latest stories, news, and current affairs. Don't forget, we are streaming live on YouTube, so you can check us out at News Central Television. Feel free to drop a comment or two, or let us know what you think about some of the biggest stories as we go into them. First off, many have talked about the fact that there was a reversal process, especially for Nigeria's educational sector, where the price for form purchases regarding to WAEC and NECO was reversed. At first, 27,000. Many have said the price is too high for that price. It's too high, rather. And then it now was looked into to be increased at 50,000 naira. But then again, the federal government, having a meeting, quickly said they've put a pause on that. Many have said it's due to political reasons. Maybe after the politics come January, they may decide to go back to increasing the fees or the price for purchasing any form, either for the West African examination or better still for NECO. But these are some of the conversations that we've had this week. And we've also looked at a very sad situation, a sad story that made it to the headlines as well. And on the top stories is something that we'll talk about, especially here on Wake Up Conversations. If you're just tuning in, this is Breakfast Central. We've got all the biggest stories and we'll let you in on them when we start off what we call Wake Up Conversations, which begins now. My name is Joe Hansen, and today I'm being joined by the lady who's spotted in green, but a different type of green, better still. Olive, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you to our audience for joining us, those joining us from YouTube, as well as those joining us watching on TV. It's a pleasure to have you, always a pleasure to have you. It's been a moment of respite that we've had in Lagos, Nigeria. The fact that the rains have not really gone as hard as they typically would in the past 2, Joe, is it up to 3 days?
I think, I can't recall.
Right. I think it hasn't rained in like 3 days. Anyway, I think
days,
2 days, right.
Well, let's not celebrate, just yesterday.
And the day before, it didn't rain the day before.
It did.
Well, not
in some
really.
parts, yeah, no.
With the kind of rains that we've been seeing, Joe, it did not rain the day before. But yeah, we feel like we've had a moment of respite in the past 2 days, not having to have to wade through the waters. So yes, for the next 3 hours, we're going to be taking you around Nigeria, looking at some of the biggest stories, but also just to mention that, you can join us on YouTube. News Central TV Live is where we're streaming. Your thoughts, your comments, they're very important to us. Also, your voice matters as we plan to open the phone lines and take phone calls to hear your thoughts regarding some of the biggest stories that will be making the front pages of the newspaper. It's one more day till the end of the week. It's Thursday, so thank God it's Thursday. Joe, do we have a typical Thursday tradition? Do you have a pre-Friday tradition? Back in the day, there's this place in Ikoyi that we used to go to. I don't want to call their name, but it was like a gathering for literary people, literary inclined people.
Okay.
It was very artsy, very artistic. So you would go there, there's a live band performing. And if at some point I feel like I want to perform a song,
okay,
I can go on stage, the live band will perform for me. And now that I'm talking about it, I feel like I should go there today. But it's just that I'm going through a lot. So turning off is a list of my worries.
Need to detox maybe, and that
I need to bar.
To do that. By the way, for those who are watching us, Benga will not be joining us this morning. Hopefully, let's see if he gets to make it. He has an assignment in which he needs to quickly wrap up with. But it's good that you talked about Thursday.
Thursday tradition.
Thursday still remains one of my best days, right from primary school. I used to love Thursdays.
Why?
I don't know why.
I think I know why. There's a subconscious, you have Friday to look forward to. My friend says Thursday is her best day of the week. Because she has to look forward to Friday being the end of the week.
I think
Friday is my best day.
Mine wasn't because I was looking at the weekend or was expecting. I think there was just this thing I loved about Thursdays. I don't know. Maybe I've outgrown it now, but I really don't care these days. But
anyway,
we can quickly jump into our wake-up conversations, look into the biggest stories. The Oyo State incident has come but has not gone yet. The Senate, we heard, said they're going to donate 50 million naira to the affected families. Nigerians have said it's good to donate this money, but we just hope that the money will get to the family when it should get to them. That's one story that actually made the rounds. Another sad one yesterday, Olive, showed a social media influencer yesterday who took advantage of a young lady.
That one is the saddest one. I think we'll save that one for last and start with the... In fact, anyway, let's just inform you that today's wake-up conversations is quite sad. It is a very, very sad one that we have, the stories that we're going to be looking at. But we're going to maybe call for a video first. It's the video of the Reverend. Now, a number of us got to know about Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo when he came out publicly to accuse the government of not standing up for Christians in northern Nigeria. He talked about having experienced the killings that have happened in northern Nigeria, having had to have buried a number of people. Here on News Central Television, we had an exclusive with him. Blessings Mosugu sat down with him for an exclusive, and in that exclusive, for about an hour, it was explosive. They were detailing the realities of what it feels like or what it means to be a Christian living in northern Nigeria. Now, the debate, the pushback from the government was that there is no Christian genocide. Nigeria is dealing with insecurity. But we are going to play this video. We must warn you, we had to blur a number of parts of the clip because the blood parts really are dead bodies, and we wouldn't unfortunately be able to show that on TV this morning. Even though there's a part of me that rebels against that, there's a part of me that wishes that we can show it as is, we can show the bodies so that people can get uncomfortable, so that people can be as annoyed and as upset as they should be. People in northern Nigeria do not deserve to experience this alone. So it's a collective pain. But enough of the talking. Let's hear from Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo. Please head on YouTube to drop your comments, and then we'll come back to take reactions.
Akwai yara kanana wanda ba su kai shekarun baptisma ba. Akwai yan mata guda biyu, Melody da Kanjan, su ne last year muka yi musu baptisma. This year sun yi bye-bye da juna.
I'm begging you in the name of Jesus, stop Islamic agenda. All over Nigeria, the Igbos, South Christian, be ready for self-defense. If Nigeria is going to be turned upside down, let it be. Under Muslim ticket, they want to finish us. Please, I'm waiting for my arrest. It will be far better for me. I will have a relief in police custody, in army custody, guard room, than to be outside crying every day, mourning, suffering, popping down, comforting the people. Zakameko, we will kill you like we'll kill your brother. Wait for our coming soon. The Fulani didn't know that we have advanced now in self-defense. We are prepared. And I've told my youth, Christianity must survive. Let more security be added in Bakiladi local government. Because if this man is attacked, nothing will stop me from taking the lead into redeeming my people. Christians, wake up! Open your eyes! I have not finished mourning my people. My siblings 9. Now they are writing a letter to my member that they are coming to kill him. Come and kill him. you will see what will happen. Governor, this is Ezekiel Dachomo speaking. In our Jersey, take note. If anything happen with my member, there will be mass revolution in Plateau State. If not, it's going to go down to South. Our patient does not mean we are cowards. We are not afraid of soldiers. We are not, because we know some of them have been infiltrated by Boko Haram. And this is what is happening. We are in pain. Once they struck another village, another Ruga should be ready for war.
The military were never in charge of the situation here. Honestly, they would have got them not to reach the nearby village to us here. If they were ready, I call the sector the person commanding this checkpoint here. I called him, honestly, just their fuel is finished. They cannot go anywhere. Those people in the checkpoint here, from here, not up to 2 kilometers. Not up to 2 kilometers. Everybody is totally depressed. Seriously depressed. Nobody, if not because of us having the heart that we will not leave this place, this situation would have made us to completely move and leave this place. But if we leave, where can we go? Everybody is seriously affected. Families lost their loved one, husbands and wives. Children are left without mothers and fathers. All these are things that will never make us to feel that there is anything that is good. Nothing is good before us.
NECO gwamnan Zamfara. Sani Dauda Lawal Dare. To kai kashe Alhaji Sani Yalo. To kila ina ga Alhaji Sani Yalo kurwa garai kurwa shi dawo nan ga yanan filin Allah ka diba gani ga yanan cikin gari ma diba. Ka ga yanan saman mashin din shi. Ka gan shi? To Alhaji Sani Yalo ya yi garin wani sakare sai dai ta Allah. Yawwa kuma ka biɗi barayi waɗanda suka addabe ka ƙasarka. Yawwa ka daina biɗan ma masu biɗan ma sasan shi ga ƙasarka, masu ta maka gyara ƙasarka. Yawwa in kuma kana bibiyan mu da sheri to ga filin nan ina ga tun ka kawo aikin gwamnati nake hidimar gabana. To ka kama hidimar gaban ka biɗi mutanen da suka yi kashe na she da su. Yawwa baka kada da gizo ba kada kai ta gobe. A gane? Yawwa duk wanda ke she ma wai wannan shirme ne.
Wow, a lot to take in, especially looking at the northern part of Nigeria. First of all, Reverend Dachomo there crying and saying enough is enough, that they will no longer take it. It makes me worry, and I'm worried because this has been going on for so long. The Reverend himself has come forth to speak. What has been done? You wonder that the Plateau State governor, who said people should stop taking videos from social media and be quick to post. But the images, I saw so many yesterday, I had to stop. The thing is that, in case you're watching, killings have continued. They haven't stopped. The killings have continued. So it's not a case of, oh, taking videos and quickly putting on social media. The question should be, what have we done? Number one, the president visited the state. He didn't go to see the victims. They told the victims to come to him at the airport.
To come and shake hands.
He made a few statements, shook hands, and said, let me run, because you don't have light in your airport. They promised that they would install cameras. We had a guest join us recently and said, those things are not existing. It's not about installing the cameras or the security equipment. Have they been installed? Are they being in use? Now, what has been done consistently, we've seen a call for help. In the same north, what you just saw is, in quotes, a bandit, or rather still many will call him a terrorist, all sorts of names. And it was said that he's dead. But he's put in a video to say, who did you say died? Why are you lying? Talking to another governor in a state, another state. So it's been back and forth. Nigeria's case of insecurity is one that you cannot really pinpoint and say, this is it. We've grabbed it. We've been able to crush it. We've handled it with all utmost importance. Rather, what we see is it's spiraling, it's growing, it's spreading. I was looking at the Nigerian map recently, and if you have a time, or better still, here on Breakfast Central, we look forward to do it. We look forward to do it. We just hope we had our boards. We would break it down using the map. You see how insecurity has spread across different parts of the country. At first, we only thought it was in the north. And then again, Borno State, it now spiraled down. We've seen it in the middle belt. Now we've seen it in the southeast. Guess what? Many said it would not come to the south. I remember 3 years ago, they said, no, it can't come to the southwest. And the southwest is a very strong place, and so on and so forth. Guess what? It's in the southwest. That's why you will talk about the Orire incident, and then you talk about the Kwara issue and the others, especially you look at other states as well. So it begs, are we going to have a state of the nation address that will say, listen, we're going to focus on dealing with this security crisis, and this is what we are going to do? But it doesn't.
Well, in reaction to that, or in addition to what you've said, I think that the northern part of Nigeria has suffered a lot of damage when it comes to the challenges with insecurity. And the certain outreach that we see when there's insecurity in the west, we don't see as much when we talk about what's happening in the northern part of the country. Our brothers and sisters have had to deal with so much. They've had to lose their lives. Now, beyond the blanket struggle of insecurity, the question is whether or not there have been people that have been targeted as a reason of their faith in Nigeria, as a reason of the fact that they have declared that they are Christians. From all evidence indicative, you will see people who have shared. Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo has shared his experience, but he's not the only one. I've heard of bishops. I know a certain bishop. I was within a church service, and the bishop came to share. I keep telling Bishop Benjamin Kwaku, I've forgotten his surname, but I know his name is, he's an archbishop in northern Nigeria. And he came to share his experience. Joe, you would not have been able to stay till the end of the service when this man was detailing what was being done to him. And all of this was done not because he was anything else. It was because he's Christian. So we can't shy away from the fact that there is an element, that is an element of insecurity. Yes, Nigerians are being threatened, but there are also people who have, unfortunately, had to pay the ultimate price as a result of their faith. Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo has now come out to share his experience and talked about having to lose 9 family members on the 11th of July in a Riyom Local Government Area of Plateau State. Imagine having to bury his family members, nuclear and extended. The torture of feeling that you have a platform, and you've spoken of. This man became viral in 2025. And he became viral because of the pain with which he was speaking with the government. And then that was when the United States was involved in the matter. And in all of this, right, in all of this matter where we say that the U.S. was involved, the question is to what extent will we say this matter has been dealt with? When the attacks happened in northern Nigeria and they had to deal with some of this, there was the U.S. Congress. The U.S. had an open Congress where they were talking about this, which is where we then came back here to blame our Senate because we did not see the same level of urgency for them to call an emergency hearing, an emergency sitting to be able to look at the state of insecurity in Nigeria. Our government must not look away from what's happening in Plateau State. We cannot ignore what is happening to these people. We need to deploy security to churches, to schools, and even to mosques. But then, when the argument about whether or not Christians are being killed surfaces, the question many people ask is when they say Christians are not the only one being killed. A number of Christians push back and say, okay, Christians are not the only ones being killed, but who are some of the people that have carried out these acts? You know, these are some of the questions that we often hear people asking. But what we must say is ultimately, when there is a state of insecurity, it's indicative and reflective of a nation that has been failed by its government, that has been, the government has failed to protect it. So these challenges, unfortunately, are dividing us. And I'm hoping that this can be resolved sooner than later. Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo has put out public notice now that his church member has received a threat letter. God forbid something happens to him. We can't pretend like we do not know, because what we see in Nigeria is a state of reactive or reaction. We're very reactive. We're not being proactive. He's raised the alarm now that his church member has gotten a warning letter. What is being done about that? I'm hoping that he goes to the police, but is the police able to guarantee him safety?
You talk about the police. The next video we saw was a member of the community who said that they could have forestalled one of the attacks. But when they called the police said, oh, sorry, we don't have fuel in our vehicle.
That's another thing.
We cannot even move. And it makes me wonder, Olive, it's like, listen, we have a burden issue that has been there. It's a nagging one. It's been there for a long time. It's like someone who has toothache, but is deciding to go and fix his nails, thinking that maybe when he fixes his toenails,
it will cure the toothache.
Would be healed, or it will cure it. And that's the issue people have with the statement of an introduction to state police.
We can't.
They are basic. The one you have, is it as a result of state police that is not functioning? The answer is no. How can security agents or the police officers, policemen, not have fuel in their car?
But let's not pretend like we don't know that this is.
We know this. They tell you
can't make a
30,000 naira.
They will ask for mobilization fee
to run a police. Come on.
No, let's not deceive ourselves. We know that happens in Nigeria a lot of the time, where you go to report something to the police and the police is asking for mobilization fee. They need money to be able to do their job.
State police literally to solve that. They will say, okay,
that's another
the governor of the state will be able to give a certain amount to the police officers and so on and so on. No. Let's not go there. Remember that there are budgets. Nigeria has a budget for security. So all these monies, where they go into. But then again, back to...
I want to talk about that third video that we played, Sunny Yellow. Now, there was a release 3 days ago. The police then gave a statement saying that Sunny Yellow had been killed, but they divorced themselves from the situation. Why do you feel the need to announce that he has been killed when you say that, oh, but you are not directly involved in the killing? Look at how much of a ridicule it is when somebody comes out and then puts the video and says, but you people say that he has been killed, but this is evidence, and he's putting a video of himself to ridicule the statement by the police that he has been killed.
Let me say this to Nigerians, and let me say this clearly. This is a tough time to take in hook, line, and sinker every story you find, because it's also a tough time for journalists, for news wires, for channels, for TV stations that give you news and current affairs on a regular. Because tell me how we will be able to get a press release from the authority itself that says, oh, accounting, detailing what had happened that had led to the death of an insurgent, or better still, a terrorist.
Let me read what was reported by the police command spokesperson in Zamfara State. His name is Yazid Abubakar. He confirmed that this man was killed. He said, and I quote, "We have confirmed the killing, but it's not our operation that conducted the operation." Mr. Abubakar said in a telephone interview to the Premium Times, he said the outlaw was killed on Saturday in NECO Local Government Area of Zamfara State, but declined to provide further operational details because the police were not involved. We cannot continue to make a mockery of our fight against insecurity. We should not feel the need to run to the media, to run to the news when we do not have confirmed information. But we're going to take reactions to this. And if you or anyone you know has been a victim of insecurity, we're streaming live on YouTube, News Central TV Live. Head there, drop a comment. What are your thoughts about the allegations of those who say that they have been targeted because of their faith? We'll come back and take reactions after this very short break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We'll now head to take comments on YouTube regarding the killings. But before we take comments, I want to use this medium to extend my condolences, our condolences, on behalf of the News Central team, on behalf of well-meaning Nigerians, to Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo, who has lost 9 family members, to everyone in northern Nigeria who has to deal with the current reality of insecurity, everyone who has lost a father, a mother, brother, sister, a family member, a friend, everyone who has had to feel the impact of insecurity in Nigeria. I want to extend our heartfelt condolences And we hope that we get to a place in our country where terrorists realize that Nigeria is not for terrorists, is not for terrorism, and that the government will deal decisively with those who perpetrate fear and insecurity, who undermine the value of every Nigerian life, because every Nigerian life has value. Unfortunately, terrorists don't see that. But we look forward to the moment where they will dread, before they think of carrying out an action, they will dread the repercussion by the government. We'll take comments on YouTube where we're streaming, and then take a few on X before we move over to our next story. Regarding this, Michael Zu says, Plateau Governor, why do you believe that Plateau Governor is too cowardly to protect the state? It would be great to have your perspective regarding that, Michael Zu. He said, hasn't he heard of civilian JTF, Amotekun, Udogachi, and similar vigilantes in Borno, Ondo, and Anambra, respectively? It will be too bad to lose Dachomo. Femi Olagunjo says, this is a very sad development. We need to revert to self-defense now. Those that should defend and protect the citizens are not fulfilling their responsibilities. Losing loved ones is painful. Mr. Johnson says, Olive, do you know that all the posts of this pastor to give visual detail of what is happening in this area, some people are still calling him a liar? They said it is AI. Then you should also see some Nigerian leaders also denying this. It's so sad that our Christian leaders are not joining him in this cry, and it raises concerns. But who are we to call them out? We all know what we are doing. Chooks Danny says, how would you publish something you did not confirm? Are we normal in this nation? So it was published because it was confirmed. It was confirmed from the spokesperson, the police spokesperson in Zamfara State. If you hear something from that level of authority, you would assume that that is confirmation, right? Atorich now says, we are now suffering from compassion fatigue. I understand this. I understand this. Every killing is now a passing headline or another statistics, whereas the cost is paid in human lives. We didn't arrive here by accident. It is by design. Whew, I completely understand that. Let's head to X.
Let's head to X because of our time for the next story. On X, very quickly, Gemelo says, what an audacious faith and a kind worthy of emulation. Even in the face of gruesome and widespread attacks, he has refused to back down. Great example of what leadership is. Let's see another tweet quickly. Rasidat says, this is so sad. Nobody should be killing people like this. We'll keep reporting every attack, and we trust our security agencies to act. We must not take laws into our own hands. Unfortunately, that is the truth. We mustn't. We must not. The federal government of Nigeria must listen. It is unacceptable for a group of miscreants to constitute themselves into a killer squad in the country with the government. The threat to lives and property has gone out of hand, really. This pastor must be protected at all costs. The pastor himself says he's ready to be locked up in the guard room, that it's better than for him to be crying, seeing people die daily or regularly. No one should use religion or ethnicity to manipulate people. Let's stand for truth, justice and peace for every Nigerian, regardless of their faith or tribe. And that's what Nigeria is known to stand for. Ayinda says, it's very saddening sharing such news. I believe the security agencies will fish out the criminal elements and bring them to justice. That's another one. Very sad. But Olive, we do hope that the security agents will do something. The Reverend has come out to scream. Letters have been sent. Warnings have been given. Threats have been made to unalive as many more people as possible. And he's calling our security agents to say, listen, we've been crying for so long. You either act now or you allow us to take action by ourselves, for ourselves. But we will bring you updates on that. Let's move away from that story now and move to another one. This time, let's take you to another very sad story. This one really got me. It's got to do with a certain, in quotes, social media public influencer, you name him. His name is Ifeanyi Ogbonna, a content creator widely known as Odogu of Asaba. Now, this has got to do with the fact that he actually raped a 20-year-old lady. Now, Ogbonna, who's 40, was said to have invited the victim, identified as now late Favor Abro, a nursing student, to Asaba. He invited her to Asaba under the pretext of mentoring her in content creation. Well, a story has it that he allegedly lured the lady to his hotel room where he tortured and had carnal knowledge of her. Favor, who was traumatized by the alleged assault, recorded a video which we will not be able to play that video today, detailing her ordeal before she actually consumed insecticide. Now, she is said to have passed away while receiving treatment because of the damage the insecticide she actually took had caused. But this is a very sad story. But let's quickly tell you that this story has generated a lot of reactions for the need of ensuring that we also propagate the story in the best way possible without any way eliciting or engaging those who may have similar mental struggle. We would not play that video of the young lady. Now, what happened was that the young lady put out a video, Olive, also to our viewers, and said, listen, she detailed the account of what had happened, after which she went ahead and unalived herself. But let us play the video of the content creator while he was arrested in the police custody, and he was begging. He was saying all sorts. Just watch this. He was saying this in front of the parents of the late lady. Take a look.
Do business. This is a very terrible mistake. I'm ready to give us everything. Thank you, my don't worry. How are you, sir? You know these are sister now. These are twin sister.
There's a lot I have to say on this, but I'm happy I would be able to use the instrument I have, which happens to be this platform and also on social media, to talk more on the animalistic behavior of some men. I just don't get it. I just really don't get it. Olive, I don't know if you have a say, but that's all I can take on this for now.
So this story is beyond sad for several reasons. Sad because this man, who's a bully, has intimidated this young girl, has killed her. He's guilty of killing her. Her blood is on his hands. If she gets to the point where, and to be honest, nobody is judging whatever you want to do in your private time. Your sexual preferences are your business. But the moment your sexual urges or preference extends to the level of taking away someone else's freedom, then you have done a huge disservice. And as a woman, I speak from a position of pain. World Health Organization says 1 in 3 women have experienced domestic or will experience domestic and sexual violence. I beg to differ with the numbers. I think it's even worse. If you see a gathering of Nigerian women, almost everybody there will tell you that they've experienced one level or one form of sexual assault or some sort of sexual abuse to varying degrees. This is a sad story. This young girl's life has been snuffed out. A young, promising woman, a content creator, who said her family had challenges, her family had problems, but that she came to him for mentorship and help. And you would think that that would be an opportunity for him to guide and to help someone that he's old enough to give birth to, but he took advantage of her. Even when she told him that she's a virgin, it was not excuse enough. And now he's kneeling down to beg. To beg for what, Joe?
I think he deserves whatever will come his way. And I'm happy that there are receipts. He can't deny it. The young lady has gone ahead to unalive herself. However, let's also mention here that the fact that these things happen and many victims don't come out, it's just painful that the victim who came out decided to come out and then take her own life.
Do you know why a lot of them don't come out?
We know. There's this stigmatization, there's a whole lot that comes with it. But you can only imagine the harm this guy may have caused other females before he got to this level. And in the video, there's a place where the young lady said, after he had done it, she told him, look at what you've done. And you notice he said, hey, that he has always wanted to.
To experience what it felt like to be with a virgin.
Exactly. So it tells you the kind of human being. And this is and I stand to be corrected. This is what social media has also created. Social media has created humans in form of animals, rather, in form of humans, because every single person you see, oh, you think, okay, because this person is a content creator, this person is good, or this person has this, oh, I love. You have to be careful. But let's see what Nigerians are saying on X, because we need to move to another very sad story again. Sadly, the women are not being protected as we thought they should. Yemi Webmaster says, this man must not be allowed to escape prosecution. You guys will also be held liable if his prosecution is shoddy. Well, you can bet that it's going to be a hard one because his face is everywhere. We have a Ted Bundy problem in Nigeria. We don't talk about. We don't value the girl child enough in the country. I just said that the women are really at the receiving at the other end. I am speechless, Dara Morin says. This one says, sorry, won't do. You're going straight to jail and you do a long time in there. Your life is as you know it is. Your life as you know it is over. Your life as you know it is over, it says. No, please, you should go down for murder or manslaughter. This is too painful to bear.
I agree. Honestly, I agree. I hope that, that should be it. This is definitely manslaughter. This should be, I hope, that it gets to the courts.
Anyway, let's not even...
So manslaughter, so for example, manslaughter is, so there are two things. When an action, exactly, the actus reus and the mens rea, when you've checked that that the action led to death, was there a mental intent? The both of them have to align. If there wasn't a mental intent to death and death was a resulting factor, then it will now be manslaughter. But whatever the case, this is beyond the sexual assault matter. I would look forward to seeing what the charges against him are. But then again, I want to say, first of all, thank you, Joe. Thank you to you and other men who hold other men to account. I was saying to somebody that, and unfortunately, it's the reality of somebody saying to me, things like running, jogging. You know how when you want to jog in the evenings, you want to take a jog around your area, there are certain things that you don't have the liberty to fully think of doing as a woman because you are thinking of your safety. When I don't know, Joe, that you ever think of going to see somebody and you are thinking, I don't want to go and see, even if it's a female, I don't want to go and see her because I don't want them to sexually assault me. It's not a fear that I imagine comes to men, but this is the reality of how we live our lives every day. Permutation, calculating, no, I can't do this, so I have to be safe. With my assistant, oh, it's already late. When we're finished, I'm like, you need to leave now. It's already late. I don't want you to be out very late at night. So I want to say thank you to all the men who constantly speak up and hold animals like this to account. And I want to say we need to deplatform certain people. Certain people do not deserve to be influencers. They do not deserve to be celebrities. Imagine them calling him Odogo of Asaba. Odogo as what? Odogo where they rape.
You know what I said? That's why I said social media has brought about this eulogy that we have and perception of certain people because they have numbers, followers, and so on. So there's this thing around them that, oh man, this guy is big, he's an influencer, and so on and so forth. I'm speaking from the aspect of how people perceive them, perception. However, it's very key. And there's a lot to talk to concerning the young lady who decided to take her own life. Because the story is not complete if you balance it. Because the story was that she made contacts. He said, okay, come, paid for transport. She went down to see him. From seeing him, there were conversations. I need money and so on and so forth. I need to... That one, we'll also address it.
How do you want to address it?
No, we'll address that one. Let's solve the elephant in the room that you've committed a crime. Because regardless of whatever happened, whatever transpired, your crime is number one.
I don't agree, Joe. And you know why I don't agree? I have had male mentors who have never tried in any way to make any sexual pass at me. I've had male mentors who have said to me, two, off the top of my head, I can think of two older men who have served as mentors to me. Where we have meetings, they will tell me, oh, come and meet me at a place. I outline my career plans. And they've never in any way tried to take sexual advantage of me.
Let me explain.
So if this guy says to her, oh, come, that's not a license for him to take her.
Let me explain.
Okay, please.
I have a daughter. If my daughter tells me, Dad, I'm going to a place, one, did she inform her parents about it? There's so many, I don't want us to go towards her, so that's why I don't want to, because if we go there, it's going to unearth a lot of things that is not to use as to chastise, but it's to use to learn.
So
now let's not even go through the learning process.
So my challenge with that narrative is that we're then shifting responsibility. No. The responsibility should be with rapists should not rape.
No.
The question is not, oh, don't do this, don't go and see him, really. Don't go and do that. Because that is what perpetrates this rape culture.
There's something called hindsight. Unfortunately, young ones don't have 100% hindsight like those who are mature. And that's the fact. You could check it. And I'll give you an example. It doesn't mean that even mature people don't fall into the trap. We all do. I mean, everyone is imperfect. But the hindsight I'm talking about here is this. The so-called culprit now invited you into his hotel room and said, let's go into my room and stay there. What's the hindsight? Oh, I'm sorry. Where's the hotel room? What are we going to do there? I thought it's training. Can't we do it at the lobby or something?
Can I explain to you from the perspective of a woman? From the perspective of a woman, when in that place, a vulnerable younger woman who is looking for mentorship, what she's thinking of in that moment, yes, there is the fear. Sometimes you have that fear. But sometimes you are hoping that, okay, this is not what this person is going to be about, right? And you trust, because the truth is there have been situations where people go there and there's nothing that comes out of it. I don't agree with the perspective of... I don't agree with us going through that perspective.
No,
rapists should not rape, and when they rape, they should be made to take account.
Hold on. We're not... I need you to understand what I'm saying, and I'm sure our viewers would understand. For parents, I would tell my daughter, if you're going through this, the individual tells you, oh, let's go into my hotel room for the mentorship. One, don't go there. Tell him, oh, can we use the lobby? Or can we sit somewhere? The rule is the rule. It must always be in a public space, especially with somebody you do not know. You only know him on social media. You don't know his character. Don't trust. So the rule is, oh, you know what, let's go to my hotel room. That's where we're going. No, oh, I'm sorry. Is that where the training is taking place? Because if anything happens, this guy is big, is huge. He's going to lock the door. He can do anything to you. So safety first. Safety rules states that, one, protect yourself. And how? In public space. Can we sit here?
Do you know I know somebody who was raped in ShopRite? In a public space.
That's why I said, if you notice, I said something. I said, in most instances, this process is more safer. It doesn't mean that hindsight won't fail. It could fail, especially we've seen people whose drinks have been spiked. That's where hindsight fails. But we like I said, we can't.
Again, my final take to that is I don't agree. The reason why we have to start giving those rules of don't do this, don't wear this, don't go, is because people are rapists. Rapists should not rape. Anyone who rapes should be made to face the crime. I should not bear the responsibility of, oh, I need to be extra careful so that somebody will not rape me.
Let's not change the narrative. I want to make it clear, because this is, he should, whatever he gets, he deserves it, 150%. But what I'm saying is, parents have a responsibility too. Let's not move the narrative. Let's stop it. Going forward, let's stop this. Oh, parents have the narrative, and they should help their young ones know that, listen, there are safety tips. We're not in any way going to change the story that the individual may be. That's why I said, let's not go this route. This route will kill the entire story. The story is, this guy's committed a crime. Let's focus on the story, and he should do his time. If locked for life. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I can't say it on TV, but if it has, some people have said it should even be, you know, the word CAS with the T, and some people say, yes, off with it. But the point remains the point that at the end of it, all said and done, there's a lesson for all parents, including myself and you and every other person, that, okay, what can we do to forestall such?
What we can do is to continue to hold people who are rapists accountable, and ensuring that the more we are ridding our society of impotent, not impotent is not the word, of wicked people like that. Because we heard of a story of somebody who was sentenced to jail, who is a public figure, came out and very recently has been celebrated. Until our society, we need to start shunning certain actions, such that if you know that if you go and you serve your time and you come out, even society will not reintegrate you the way that you expect, because what you have done is so crazy, it's so unreasonable, it's so incredibly wicked that when you think about the outcome, you will not go through the action.
Do you remember the story of the young lady on Facebook who met someone online? And the person said, come, let's hang out and all that. and then she went. We've seen stories like that many times. But then again, I'm happy he has been caught. So let him face the wrath, especially of the law. Quite a sad story. We'll go on a quick break, but before we do that, let's bring to you our top stories very quickly. We do understand that our first guest...
Oh, yeah. We had a third story, but
yes.
let's just mention that we'll take it before the end of the show. We definitely are taking the story, unfortunately, the accusations, or no, the young lady who died in the custody of the Minister of Works is a story that we need to take. And the dust that it has stirred. We'll take it before we wrap up the show.
Absolutely. That's another one.
Yes.
So that is another one again.
But anyway, we'll get into that. We'll definitely have that conversation before we wrap up.
Too many stories.
But let's share what our top stories this morning are on Breakfast Central.
Our top stories this morning on Breakfast Central. We'll take a look at ADC as they seek Nafi Bala's prosecution. There was a story about also logging into the portal. We do not know, but we'll break it down. PVC registration. INEC civil groups rally Nigerians ahead of deadline. They say hurry up before July 27. Senate donates to bereaved of Oyo incident. What does this mean? Are they also going to donate to others who have equally faced similar stories? Non-state school policy delay. We'll talk about this. It stalls after 1 year concerning the adoption. And then you can have it say newspaper front pages as well. Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. The Senate has announced a 50 million naira financial donation to the families of 2 slain school teachers and 3 brave security operatives who lost their lives in the Urire Local Government Area kidnap incident in Oyo State. Presented a compassionate package during Wednesday's plenary session, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, detailed that each of the 5 affected families will receive 10 million naira to cushion the sudden loss of their loved one. The intervention aims to provide support for the dependents of murdered educators Michael Oyedeokun and John Olaleye, alongside the families of Lieutenant F.A. Isaac, Private Silas Musa, and Sergeant Abina Jerome, who fell during the tactical rescue operation.
So we've taken the motion, we've applauded government, we've applauded the security agencies, and we are pleading that the same be extended to any other part of the country where there may be any Nigerian in captivity. And so today we just felt, after discussion with the leadership, that we want to also support the victims' families. Like the young lieutenant was just 28 years old when he died in that operation. So we are sending a token of 50 million naira to them, to be divided into the 5 deceased families. The family of the 2 teachers, the family of the 3 operatives who lost their lives, 10 million each, on behalf of the Senate.
All right. Well, let's see if the 50 million will go far. But then again, everyone is asking if you could give. It's tragedy, and we agree. It's painful. However, Nigerians are also, a cross-section of Nigerians are asking that, will this be the norm going forward, or will the federal government eventually decide to put an end to insecurity and terrorism? But let's also tell you that 3 years into the Tinubu administration, education stakeholders have reviewed reforms aimed at improving access to quality and accountable education across the sector. At the 2026 Econ Education Summit in Abuja, policymakers and experts assess progress, identify challenges, and propose solutions. News Central Subaya Abubakar tells us more in this report.
Honestly, I am proud. The Econ Education Summit brings together policymakers, regulators, and journalists to review reforms in Nigeria's education sector. Speakers highlighted progress in TVET, 3 years without prolonged industrial action, improved global rankings for 24 Nigerian universities, and greater use of education data for accountability.
100 billion naira to support our TVET ecosystem. This is big. It's not been done in the last 2-3 decades.
These reforms are anchored on improving learning outcomes, strengthening governance, expanding access, promoting equity, enhancing quality assurance, and equipping learners with the skills required to thrive in a rapidly evolving global economy.
This gathering, therefore, is not intended merely as a review of government policies. Rather, it's a platform for constructive engagement, evidence-based dialogue, and the exchange of ideas among policymakers, practitioners, development partners, and the media on how best to strengthen Nigeria's education system for future generations.
Stakeholders identify limited access to schools and poverty as key drivers of the nation's out-of-school children crisis, while urging stronger collaboration with education journalists to promote public awareness and accountability. The summit also honors excellence through the ECAN Education Awards.
The Federal Ministry of Education remains committed to an open, inclusive, and consultative approach to policy making.
Interact with those who are policymakers. Get closer to them, and your instinct will be that to change society, even if most of these things are not reported.
We must give voice to teachers, students, parents, school administration, and policymakers. We must also use our platform to educate and advocate for policies that improve learning outcomes and protect the future of Nigerian children.
We recognize that our responsibility extends beyond reporting events. We are partners in national development. Through accurate, balanced, and impactful journalism, we inform the public, stimulate informed debate, amplify the voices of stakeholders, and promote accountability within the education sector.
Participants say sustained investment and collaboration remain key to improving access and the quality of education in Nigeria. In Abuja, for News Central, Sumaya Abubakar.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Thank you for joining us so far. It's been 1 hour of looking at some of the biggest stories happening in the continent, and we're going to bring you more in that regard. But now let's tell you that 1 year after the launch of Nigeria's National Policy on Non-State Schools, NPNSN, no state has fully domesticated or implemented the framework aimed at strengthening collaboration between government and non-state education providers. According to Seed Care and Support Foundation's NPNSN domestication tracker, 8 states have begun the domestication process, while several other states have shown no visible progress. The Federal Capital Territory is said to be pursuing implementation through administrative action rather than legislation.
Well, let's tell you that the policy seeks to improve the quality of education, strengthen regulatory compliance, promote accountability and transparency, encourage inclusive education, and enhance collaboration between government and non-state schools. It also expects non-state schools to meet quality standards, comply with regulations, provide accurate education data, participate in quality assurance processes, and invest in teacher development. Well, joining us to discuss this, we have the Executive Director of Seed Care and Support Non-Government Organization. We do have with us Olariwaju Unigita, who's here with us in the studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yesterday, we were talking, coincidentally, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked about
NECO. Oh, we've talked about education yesterday. We had the professor yesterday.
Good.
And then we talked about it the day before.
And I think it's in sync because if you want to promote education, collaboration, you want to ensure that the educational sector develops far better than what we have here, then it is very important that we follow through with whatever plan has been put in place. I know I want to go straight to 1 year after. We're expecting the administration to have done all of these things, but want to have an X-ray on it. My question would be, permit me to go to your thoughts on the form of WAEC and NECO. Does it also fall into this review? 50,000, 27,000 to 50,000 naira.
I think I would approach this by, really talking about how the review came into place.
Okay.
Which is the challenge we have with a lot of policies. Now, a lot of consultation, as we know now that, that has been taken off the table because they want to have more consultations with the stakeholders. And with any policy, I wrote something on LinkedIn recently to talk about us tracking about 40 policies that have been done by the current Minister of Education. For most of those policies, we did not have enough engagement with the stakeholders to be able to see the impacts and the lived realities of people. Policies are to serve the people. And if policies are made without, proper consultation with, those that are living with the realities of the policy, it would always cause this kind of friction. So the amount for the average Nigerian is quite high. And I think if proper consultation was done prior to setting that fee, I'm sure it would have been another figure.
Right. You're completely correct. Now let's go back to the foundation of this conversation. We're talking about a national policy on non-state schools. Not every person is in the education sector, but the education sector does impact the quality of life of everyone in Nigeria. So give us a background understanding. What is the national policy on non-state schools, and why did that policy need to be put in place? All right. It's important because, as we all know, our fathers and great-grandfathers will talk about how they all attended public schools. After independence, everybody talks about, how the public system used to work. But, at some point in Nigeria, we realized that, a lot of, education was being provided by, the non-state sector. Non-state typically means private. Right, and so it became important that there's regulation that supports this sector, so that we can actually start to impact the average Nigerian child that goes to these kind of schools. So when we say non-state schools, we say faith-based schools, our typical private schools, schools run by charities, homeschooling. So any form of education that is not provided by government is what we refer to as non-state schools. And prior to now, in the policy, the education policy, we just say that education can be provided by the private sector. There was no specific regulation that was supporting, the private sector and the non-state sector in providing education. So this policy was developed. Thankfully, Seed Care and Support Foundation was part of the development of the policy and the drafting and the validation process from 2024. And it was then launched on this day last year in 2025 by the Honorable Minister and many stakeholders, and we were part of it as well. And so this policy is supposed to help to regulate the sector, support the sector, and ensure that we understand what we need to do as the non-state actors to be able to provide quality education for every single Nigerian child. So that is why the policy is in place. But the truth is that policy in Abuja doesn't translate directly for the child in the classroom. Education sits on the concurrent list, and so for it to impact the classroom, it has to travel a long journey. It's not a straight journey from Abuja to the classroom to the child. It is federal. The states have to domesticate it, make it work for them, then implement it. Then it now goes to the schools. Before the schools now adopt it for the classroom, before the child now gets to see the benefit and, be able to use, all what the policy has, for them. So it's a long journey, and any break in that transmission, any chain that doesn't, connect affects the child, because the truth is that a policy is only something written on paper until it is domesticated and implemented by the states. And so far, only 8 schools I see have domesticated that? So, so far, based on our tracker, okay. And this tracker is not something we came up with. We are working directly with all of the non-state school associations across Nigeria, representing all the 36 states. And we're also getting information from our partners, development partners that are working with these states. Only 8 states have started work. 0 states have domesticated this policy as at this time. And these 8 states, we say 6 have gone far, 2 have just started, working. And out of all of those states, in fact, not even out, the 8 states are able to do this or report this because of technical assistance from donor partners. And with dwindling funding from donor partners, we see that it will not
move beyond these 8 states if we're not careful. We need domestic funding from our government and technical assistance to ensure that the rest of the country and all the states are able to fully domesticate this policy.
Okay, so what are these states? How many? 8 states?
Yes.
8?
Yes.
What are these states?
All right, so in the north, we have Kano, Kaduna, Jigawa. In the southwest, we have Lagos, Ogun, Oyo that have, got into the space of drafting the framework. So they have a draft for consideration by the Honorable the Honorable Commissioner for the state, and then it goes through to the Ministry of Justice and then to the State Executive Council. So those 6 states have gotten their drafts. Now, Osun and Ekiti are still at the drafting process. They're still looking at their own drafts, and that's where they're at. But we have one state in the south-south, which is Rivers. They haven't started, but we see that they already have an existing regulatory framework. That means that they already have something similar to the policy that they can start to work on, but they haven't started any activity. For all other states, we didn't see any activity, no public information available for us to be able to track. So that's the status.
What does this policy state? Because, like I said, we had an educationist join us on the program, and his thoughts are quite different on some of these policies. But what does the policy actually state? What is involved in this policy?
So I call it a game-changing policy for the private sector, our non-state schools, because for 10 years, SEED has been working with these schools, and we've been clamoring for a lot of things. What this policy does is it looked into every aspect of non-state education, from curriculum to taxation, to funding, to support. Once this policy is being domesticated by each state, a lot of our private schools will settle down and do the work that they are set up to do, because it actually encompasses everything that has to do with non-state education, and it addresses it from, like I said, non-state covers even up to homeschooling. What exactly, how are we going to register? How will government support us? What curriculum will we run? How will we work with teachers? What do we do when it comes to financing our schools? How will government support us?
So is it suggesting a unison of some sort between the state schools and the non-state schools? Because you have mentioned a lot of these things, but I would imagine that if I were a private school owner, I want to understand what this policy is, how it impacts me as a business, because I invested in this. The government did not contribute to building my school or helping me. So I want to understand, how does this policy affect my business? Because as much as they are there to render a service, they're also there for their own gain. They need to, they need to make money. So how does this impact their business, the business side of things?
All right, so the business side of things, the most critical part is that most schools complain about is taxation. Most schools talk about multiple taxation, from local government, from state. The policy addresses that in terms of taxation. In terms of financing, the policy also talks about, how the government would support financing. Now, what really happens is that this policy is at the federal level, and they've made it to, at a baseline that will cover all states. Now, that is why domestication is important. Now, every state is now supposed to take this policy and contextualize it for their own state. Now, if my state, Lagos, for instance, we have international schools that require much more funding than a typical, other type of private school, Lagos State is supposed to design what would work for their own state schools, their own non-state school businesses, in a way that will help them grow. Now, it will be different, and as SEED, thankfully, we worked with Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo in the development on the drafting of their policies. I can tell you that no matter how close Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo are, the policies are very different, because the context of each school in these states are very different. So the state will now make it workable for the businesses, the school businesses in their state, and the challenges that they are facing. And that's why even the process of domestication cannot be done alone. There has to be proper stakeholder engagement. The Lagos draft policy took over 10 months to draft. And there was a public hearing with over 200 stakeholders to be able to review the policy and provide feedback so that they can look at how it impacts their businesses and how, they can improve their businesses. Now, one last point is that within the non-state sector, we have what we call the affordable non-state schools. These are schools that serve children from low-income communities that public schools would probably have to work with. In Lagos, we have 1,700 public schools. We have over 20,000 non-state schools, out of which about 15,000 of those schools are affordable non-state schools that serve the poor. Now, these schools, even though they are businesses, they are serving those communities that typically maybe public schools are not enough or they are too far from. And these schools need to be sustainable. So in addition to them running as businesses, we also advocate to the fact that since they are serving the same population that our public schools are supposed to be serving, government is supposed to provide additional support to them because some of these schools charge as low as 100 naira per day.
Wonderful.
And they are serving these children that should be in public schools that we do not have enough infrastructure to service.
So the concern to every Nigerian, I mean, there's so many concerns about this. What happens to the Almajiri? That's a big concern.
Okay,
because
take a look.
if you're talking about non-state, the Almajiri, wouldn't they go to school?
Yes. So
how
in the definition, yes.
Private? Why is it that the government?
When you're done with that, I'd like to have.
Yes.
Why is it that the government is not focused on ensuring that you take these children out of the streets?
Yeah.
Shouldn't the policy at first, in terms of hierarchy, shouldn't the policy be done in such a way that, yes, we know you're focusing on non-state, doesn't it in any way also leave the public schools out of it? Who's going to take the Almajiri? Is a non-state school? Are they going to take the children off the streets as well?
Within the definition of non-state schools, we have the faith-based schools.
Okay.
Now, so the faith-based schools caters for that because the truth is that the Almajiri schools, so we have in the north, so in the Kano, Kaduna, Jigawa policies, you would see a lot of emphasis on the Almajiri. So you see part of it, the Islamia schools, Islamia integrated schools, the Sangaya and Quranic schools are part of the definition of non-state. In fact, in the Lagos policy, because we realize that there are quite a number of Muslims in Lagos as well, the Lagos policy draft also caters for the madrasas. And so we are looking at all of that as part of the definition of non-state. So as part of the strategy, once this non-state policy has been implemented, a lot of these Sangaya and Quranic schools that serve the Almajiri population is also part of the non-state, and it would help to be able to mop up the Almajiris as well.
Okay, I just wanted to follow up, Olive, sorry. I mean, since we're talking about helping these ones, and the government is looking at that, statistics shows, I mean, let me pull this out from UNICEF. Okay. 15 to 18.5 million children aged 6 to 15 are missing out on basic education. 86% of these children reside in northern regions. That's the question I just asked, and then you've answered that the faith-based schools have to cater for this. Kebbi, Sokoto, driven by extreme poverty and so on. About 10.2 million primary school-aged children and 8.1 million junior secondary school-aged children are out of school. In all clarity, should the focus be on reviving our public institutions or schools first? Or do you think the non-state schools, regardless of the faith base, have the capacity to cater to the numbers that we are reading here?
All right. So I would like to state this. Okay. One of the positions we stand at SEED is the fact that a lot of these out-of-school children numbers is based on estimation. Now, one of the critical reasons this non-state policy needs to be implemented fully is that our state governments first do not recognize all of these schools. Hence, a lot of the children we count as out of school are in these schools without us knowing. And that is why we have issues with data. And that is why we're excited about DNEMIS that was launched by the minister's office. Because the real truth, and I always say this anytime I'm opportune to say that, there are many children that are being counted as out of school because of the formula that is being used to calculate because our non-state schools are not fully recognized and being captured by government. Let me give you an instance of Lagos. Now, I mentioned that there are about 1,700 public schools in Lagos and over 20,000 private schools. Now, at some point, if you go to the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education in Lagos and ask them for approved schools in Lagos, they will give you less than 6,000 schools because those are the approved schools. And for some years, prior to January 2025, before we started registering these non-state schools, these schools were out of the government database. And so any child that goes to those schools will be typically counted as out of school, because when you go, and UNICEF, when they are calculating, they will get data from our government. Now, when they do the annual school census, our officers are trained not to enter these schools that are not approved. So they wouldn't count the children in Makoko, for instance, as in school. But are they in school? Yes, they are in school. These Al-Majri, Quranic, and Sangaya schools, they are in school. But the way the annual school census template was designed before this new reform, it wouldn't have counted them before. Right. So the issues, and when the minister mentioned that they did a pilot in one northern state, I think it was Kaduna or so, and the UNICEF numbers, what they got as number of out-of-school children was lower than the numbers that they got. Because the truth is that, first, the non-state schools is absorbing quite a number of out-of-school children that we're not counting. Then to the number, because we still have huge numbers of out-of-school children, millions, that is still it's still a reality for us. But the first point is that there are many children in school that we're not counting as a nation. Then the second is we need to work hand in hand. We need to revamp the public schools, but we need to also work with our non-state sector, because the education challenge in Nigeria cannot be solved by government alone. We have a very huge population and we have a very young population, and the way the growth of our public sector, schools are going, it cannot cater for the number of children that we have. So I believe the solution for Nigeria is a partnership, working together as complementary actors to solve the issues of out-of-school children and for the children in school, because we have children in school that are not learning, because that's another crisis. 70% of children in school are not learning. Why? They cannot read and write. Okay. Yes.
Thank you for that perspective. I never have thought about the perspective about the number of out-of-school children that we have, not reflecting and capturing the totality of what the current... Yes, I know we have a data challenge, but you as an expert, you've helped us see it more clearly, because even homeschooling, I know a few families that their children don't go to the conventional school. They school them at home. Well, how does the government then capture that? So, which then leads me to my next question about data. How important is data in all of this? And this, what else? So it's a two-in-one question. How important is data in being able to reflect what the current reality of our education sector is, and maybe the implementation of this? And what would you say are the stumbling blocks that are preventing this from being implemented and domesticated nationwide?
All right. So I'll use you not feeling fine and going to a doctor as a case study. If the doctor doesn't diagnose what the problem is, he wouldn't understand how to solve it. And that's how data is very important. You can't go blind trying to solve an issue you don't even understand. So data is really critical as a foundation to solving the issues of out-of-school children, even children in school not learning, even children missing in the gap of education, so dropout rates as well. Data is a critical foundation. And the basis for that is the annual school census and the NEMIS. So NEMIS is the National Education Management Information System. And it falls in three categories. There's NEMIS, there's SEMIS, there's LEMIS, the state and the local government. If we're able to capture the data that we need to capture, and with the new launch of the DNEMIS, which is the digital NEMIS, because it used to be captured on paper before, now that it's being digital, we're hoping that this data would allow us to be able to capture the right information so that we start knowing the scale of the challenge, and we're then able to solve that challenge when we understand it better. The introduction of the learner identification number is also very important, because then you can track a student from early childhood up until university with that learner identification number, so that even if they drop out in the middle, you understand and you can track them. And so data, if I had only one policy to implement as a minister, if I was a minister, it would be around data. And that is very critical, because that's only when you can understand the challenges you have and how to solve it. Now, for this domestication, like I said, the policy we celebrated on the day it was launched, this day last year, because we knew it was a game changer for the non-state sector. However, it is useless, permit me to use that word, if states do not domesticate and implement it. Because federal cannot come to the school to come and tell them to do what it's in the policy. The state has to domesticate it and implement it for it to start changing the lives of children that attend these kind of schools. And so, domestication, what has been the problem? The first thing is the states are not even taking, I'm not sure that they see the importance of why the non-state sector should be supported, should be regulated, should be integrated into their system. Because once this policy is in place, they are able to understand the numbers of schools they have, how to support them, how to ensure that, they're following the curriculum and all of that. So it's important first. Number two, the federal has to also coordinate. They don't just release a policy. They also need to provide technical assistance, financing, support, maybe through the Committee of State Commissioners of Education under the Nigerian Governors Forum. They need to have a coordination office at FME to be able to ensure that the state commissioners are taking this and implementing it. At the state level, they also need to start the process of domestication, and not just domesticate in their office. Domesticate with stakeholders so that they are engaged and their realities are brought on board. Like I gave the case study of Lagos. The public, once a drafting committee was first inaugurated, a 17-man committee was inaugurated, made of plenty stakeholders, including us, the non-state sector, government, Nigerian Union of Teachers. They brought everybody together to do that. And then they now put it to the public through a public hearing before we now submitted the final draft.
All right, let's pause. I have one more question. I want to go a very quick break. And when we come back, we'll have you answer that one question before we wrap things up. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the national policy on non-state schools in Nigeria. I do have the document with me, and we have our guest in the studio who's been guiding us regarding this, the implementation of this, domestication of it nationwide, and why that is important. My final question to you is a twofold question. We're talking about the domestication of the various states. So what happens with the FCT? Because in this case, I'm guessing we have 36 states and the FCT, so how does that tie in? That's one. And two, are we paying the same level of attention that we're paying to the non-state schools to the state schools? Are they getting this much attention as well? Because like you mentioned at the start of this conversation, there are many people who I went to a state secondary school, the latter part of my secondary school. There are many of us who benefited from state schools. But today, the average person does not want to take their child to a state school because they're worried about the quality of education they will get.
All right, so I'll start with your last question, the part B. The state schools have always gotten attention. I mean, even though it's not great attention, but that's, you look at UBEC, there's money that is being assigned for public education. The states have a challenge. Many states didn't access their UBEC funding, and recently it's been announced that that money has been unlocked. So there's a framework. There's a framework for funding to flow into our state schools. There are policies for state schools, even though, it might not be properly implemented and we need more, but a lot of attention truly has always been on the state schools and the public sector. Even a lot of donor partners, when they come, they want to support public schools. They want to, ensure that they provide technical assistance. I would say that the state schools, even though more can be done, already has a framework that, can allow support to flow through to the state schools. The challenge we had was that the non-state sector, even though it was existing, it was just floating in the air. There was no specific policy to regulate, to recognize, include, and support them. And so this policy is just to formalize and create the kind of framework that the state school has for the non-state schools, so that we can now start to complement each other to ensure that every single Nigerian child gets access to quality education. Now, in terms of the FCT is a federal capital territory and is not a state. Now, when I say every state has to domesticate, technically, the federal policy automatically applies to Abuja. So it doesn't have to be that we domesticate. What they need to do is follow an administrative activation. So it's already their policy. They just need to activate it for the schools that exist in the Federal Capital Territory. So technically, it's already domesticated once it's launched, but they need to activate it, the administrative way and start to implement immediately. Okay,
it's 1 year after. In the next 1 year, we hope to be able to have a conversation with you again and see how far we have come, and see maybe an implementation in this, not just with this non-state schools, but also see, I mean, you're saying that the state schools have attention. The honest truth is that a lot of Nigerians will argue with you that if they can afford it, they will not want to send their child to a state school. So we want to see thorough attention being given to the state schools, to the non-state schools, and a quality, what we can refer to as quality education and, measurable impact. So in the next 1 year, we hope that we can have you back again.
Yes.
Or, members of your team, and see how far we've been able to go with this and see measurable impact.
Yes. So one of the greatest things, lastly, is that we preach equity for every child. So the state schools deserve attention. What we said is that there's a framework for that to happen, is for it to now truly happen for the state sector. But we're saying that since non-state schools also exist, we need to ensure that complementary provision of education for every single Nigerian child. Every Nigerian child deserves access to quality education.
All right.
I agree.
Thank you very much for your time with us this morning, and we look forward to continuing conversation about education. We will now take the conversation to another angle, as we're this time going to be looking at elections, politics, and we're connecting with our guest in our Abuja studio. We're looking ahead of the 2027 elections after the short break.
Thanks for staying with us. With the countdown to the 2027 general elections underway, the call for eligible Nigerians to register as voters is growing stronger. INEC, civil society organizations and political leaders are urging citizens, especially Nigerian youth, to take advantage of the ongoing continuous voter registration exercise before the deadline.
As Nigeria prepares for another electoral cycle, attention has shifted to whether the country's largest demographic will translate its numbers into real political influence. Young Nigerians account for more than 70% of the country's population, making them a decisive force in determining the nation's future. Yet, voter apathy remains a major concern. To address this, several civil groups are intensifying efforts to encourage young people to register, to vote, and participate more actively in the democratic process. Joining us for the conversation this morning is Dr. Salamatu Hussaini, former Minister of Women Affairs and former Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. She's also one of the 24 Go Nigeria advocates drawn from the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, working to promote active citizenship, youth participation, and greater engagement in Nigeria's democratic process. Ambassador Hussaini, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are fast approaching the voter registration deadline. How would you assess the level of youth participation so far? Would you say that young Nigerians are responding to this call? We have been hearing your organization, Go Nigeria, as well, campaigning for this. And many civil society organizations have called for young people to take advantage of this. But from your perspective so far, would you say they've been heeding this call?
Well, thank you very much. It is very difficult for me to say The youths have responded. They have heeded to the call. To me, the most important thing is to make the call and to make sure that enough advocacy is being made to ensure those people, the youths that have come of age, particularly from the last election cycle to this cycle, register, collect their cards, and vote in the 2027 elections. And essentially, that is what the Go Nigeria advocates are doing. And I must commend INEC for extending the deadline and for the preparations they have put in place that go actively well with the kind of youths we are targeting this time. That is those that are really nonchalant, they don't believe in the political process, they have a lackluster attitude because they feel their voices will not be heard. Being able to vote doesn't mean anything to them. But having this opportunity now, particularly making it easy for them to be able to register right from their domains, I think it's a very, very good step forward. And extending the date to ensure that those who need to be captured during this period are captured by the 26th of July is also a very good initiative. Okay. I must also commend the convener of Go Nigeria, that is the founder of ANAP Foundation at Edo Peterside, for really creating this initiative and ensuring that enough people are advocating, talking about it, and making sure that this large number of youths that are out there register, take interest in the political process, and become active participants going forward. Thank you.
Okay, so my question would be on, I mean, we've seen a lot of civil society organizations. We've seen Yaga Africa. They've partnered with INEC. I think they have a space in Abuja, quite central at least, for people to walk in and register. We've also seen Enough is Enough, who's pushing to ensure that they get at least 1 million youths. I don't know how possible that is, but nothing is impossible. And then we have, I can mention about almost 15 of them. And then, of course, Go Nigeria, so many. The goal seems to be to galvanize the Nigerian youth to participate. But despite making the majority of the population, young people have historically, I mean, if you check the records, they always have a low voter turnout than expected. So what do you think will make this coming election in 2027 different?
I will want to be positive and believe that the amount of advocacy being made by all concerned and interested parties, let me say. You mentioned EIE, Enough is Enough. Yemi Adamolekun is one of the Go Nigeria advocates. I think she's very, very enthusiastic about this. There are so many people that have put their caps out there and are mobilizing and galvanizing to ensure that the youths are adequately incentivized, made interested in the process, and convinced that they should be part of the process. It's not all youths that are not or are indifferent to registering and voting in the elections. And I think that has been made clear a number of times. You have a lot of youths, majority of them, so to speak, that are in the rural areas, that are they are not very aware even of the political whatever, but they are interested in voting because they believe that is the time they can come out and align with politicians, collect what they can collect, and cast their votes. Not all of them, but a majority of them. But we have also a very, very sizable number of youths that are not interested because they are not likely to want to be selling their votes. They will just want a process that they can key into, and so far they don't see themselves identifying with what is going on. So the target now, particularly for my own platform, that is the Go Nigeria Advocates Initiative, is to target these particular ones and ensure that they go and register and that they count in the upcoming 2027 elections. Because from estimates, they say that people who have come of age from the last voting cycle to this time could be as many as 20 million. So you can imagine if we have 20 million voting actively and choosing the right people, what this country could come out with at the end of it. And I think all efforts towards making sure we have sustainable democracy, good governance, and all the things that come with it are essential. And it behoves on everybody, every serious thinking Nigerian, to key into and do what they can. So, well, everybody being interested, everybody providing help from the perspective that they can, will at the end of the day give us a stronger democracy and make it easier for this country to develop and grow.
All right. Thank you very much for that response. We'll go on a very quick break. When we return from the break, we'll continue this conversation, so please stay with us. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. We still have our guests with us in our Abuja studio, and we're looking at galvanizing young people to ensure that they meet the deadline for voter registration as we prepare and count down to the 2027 elections. Thank you very much, Ma, for joining us this morning. Before we go ahead to talk about looking at the strength in the numbers and why young people matter immensely in our politics and in our elections, there's a school of thought that says you must look back at where you're coming from before you can look ahead. You have served as former minister. What would you say we have done wrong? What are successive governments, what have they failed to do to convince young Nigerians that their votes truly matter? Why do we experience such level of voter apathy, especially from the young people?
Well, as a former minister and in my own personal capacity, I think I would like to answer your question from another perspective. I sincerely believe people put too much responsibility on government. Everything is government. Government is responsible. When it is not good, it is government. When people are not doing well, it is government. But I think it is a shared responsibility. Everybody has a role to play, because for young people especially, the leadership comes mainly from the home. Before you can come out and accuse other people for not doing what they are supposed to do to make it easy or to make it good for people to want to identify, what kind of leadership have you instituted in your home that brings up your child as a responsible citizen that loves his country, is patriotic, and wants to see better things happening, and even wants to be part of the process of making things better for the country? But we have a situation whereby a lot of us, I'm not excluding myself, look at government as a separate institution that is just responsible for doing everything to make the country good. I don't have any responsibility. In my home, I can tell my child that this country is hopeless. It's going nowhere. They are doing nothing. They cannot do anything. The people are bad. Nobody is doing, nothing is working. If I have money, I will send you abroad. That is what I will do so that you go there. We keep forgetting that where we want to send our children to go and enjoy or to go and get better service and better governance, it is people there that built it for themselves. And nobody is going to come to Nigeria and build Nigeria for us or make it better. So it is a collective responsibility for everybody. And there is a role for everybody. Everybody can do something. Look at what Go Nigeria is doing. It may not seem much, but it is a big, big effort. And this did not start today. We were there in the last electoral cycle, encouraging young people, some of them that had just come out from the experience with SARS and were completely disconnected, talking to them, showing them their responsibility and how they can change things if they key in and remain engaged and make sure their voices count. So I think as in my own personal capacity, as whatever I have been in the past and presently also, that we collectively as Nigerians must take responsibility. And that leadership, that aspect of making a child proud of his country wanting to do things correctly starts from the home. But today you have people that can pay another person to sit exams for their child so that the child can get good grades and make a living in life. What are you teaching that child? And how is that child going to compete when he gets into a competitive environment? Because you are already paying people to do what he ought to do using his own resources. So I think it is time to look inwards and to really, what do I say, to commit for every single Nigerian to commit to making Nigeria better. Participate in the electoral process, make sure you bring up your children well, make them aware that this is their country, they have no other, and they have to make it better. Right. There is no amount of sending them out of the country or paying people to sit exams for them or getting them to have advantages that is going to work for them. For generations to come, we Nigerians must build our country, and it starts with having good people in governance. And if you want good people in governance, you have to participate. You have to vote them in creditably, and all that comes with the responsibility of participating in the electoral process and making sure that from childhood you bring your children up well, you make them proud of their country, you make them active participants in what happens in the life of their country and in their generations to come.
All right, Dr. Hussaini, we hear you correctly, and when you mention the role that young people have to play, the role that the family, parents have to play in raising their children, and whilst these are all correct, in conversations with many young Nigerians, we hear a pushback as to why there is a level of apathy and a lack of interest. And some of the things they mention is the frustration by unemployment, the frustration with insecurity, the high cost of living, that we hear our parents who share how they went to school for almost, free or nothing, paying for nothing, how they led a decent quality of life, but which is in stark variation to what is currently existing. So how do you convince a young person who sees politicians that are living frivolously, pillaging our commonwealth? How do you convince that person to believe in elections when they argue with you that so far it's made little difference to still participate?
Honestly, I must say I must agree with you on that score. It is very daunting and very disappointing. I will speak from personal experience because you mentioned that it was before easier for people to earn a decent living, to strive and on merit get into the system and contribute their bit, and a lot of that has gone. Yes, as I was growing up in the 60s, I always want to share this story because I believe it happened then, it can happen again. It is something that Nigeria is capable of achieving. Because I sat down for common entrance in my own village, in my locality, and from that process, I was able to gain admission into a very prominent school owned by the federal government of Nigeria, located in Lagos, and I moved from Kebbi to go to Lagos and attend Queen's College, Lagos. And from Queen's College, Lagos, I was able, by the grace of God, to go to Ahmadu Bello University, to later get a degree from London School of Economics and Political Science, and then to put in my best to serve the country in various capacities. I've served 2 times as a federal minister. I've represented Nigeria at ECOWAS. I am still doing a lot of ad hoc activities for both the public and private sector. So that was a system that worked, and people could rise. The education was not too poor. If you look at it now, in fact, the people who went to public school in those days are still the only people that can really do well in terms of showing effect of good quality education. Thereafter, everything went wrong. So one can understand why the youths will now feel, well, what is the point? Because if you look at it now, that same school I attended in the 70s, that was early 70s, I went in 1973, nobody now from my locality goes to that school on merit. Nobody. I don't think anybody is even going there. Because not long ago, the Queen's College and our brother school, King's College, Old Boys Association, engaged the Ministry of Education on why is it that the selection process is no longer done in a meritorious basis, and people are accused of selling slots and that and that. And we discovered from the research done by King's College Old Boys Association, in fact, a lot of the states in this country no longer have representation. The names that are put against their states are names from other places, paid by people who bought slots to get their children into those colleges. So really, this is a very, very sad situation. I believe it must stop. There are a lot of initiatives to collectively work towards getting those things back. But then, how do we get it back? We can only get it back if we concentrate on the things that we as citizens can do to improve the system. And part of what we can do is to participate in the political process. Have majority of people, particularly the youths, because they are more than everybody, voting in there and standing their ground and ensuring it is only people who can give us good leadership, good governance that are there. People who are concerned about out-of-school children, about unemployment, about hunger, about all the things that bother us. I'm sure you are aware that apart from electoral process, which is now our focus is on it because there is election coming and there is a deadline for registration. The Go Nigeria Advocates also looks into other issues that contribute to good governance, which could give us situations that the youths are aspiring for. So why don't everybody take it up on themselves, even if it is by advocacy, if it is by sponsoring people, if it is by making sure that you in your own corner, what you can do, you do, and you make sure things go right in this country. So I think if we all collectively work together, we can achieve. It may take time because nothing happens rapidly. The years that it took for us to get to where we are, we will need time to also get back what we thought was good in the former years. So it's a collective responsibility. We cannot afford to give up. The youths must not give up on their country. They have no other one. And it starts with registering, voting, engaging in the process, making contributions in whatever you can, whatever way, to ensure that we come out with a better country that will serve your purposes and that will serve generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to use this medium to say thank you so much for joining us in having this conversation, Ambassador Hussaini. We look forward to the deadline, July 27, just a few days from now, and before you know, it's already here. And with all the things INEC is putting together, the civil service organizations are also doing as well, let's hope that the numbers would increase like a commentator just said recently. But thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us. Two-time Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We cannot wait to have you again. Maybe we'll have a scorecard of your former ministries. That will be a conversation I cannot wait to have. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Youth, please register before the deadline.
Okay.
Go online, get your registration, do your biometrics, collect your card. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Well, that does it for this conversation. We'll look forward to see what will come out of this. Don't forget that INEC, like I rightly mentioned, have been mentioning on their social media pages, Olive. They've said, listen, go do this, go do that. So, in other words, while some Nigerians want to blame INEC, INEC, on the other hand, is also putting in the work. But there's a major problem, Olive.
Tell me.
INEC is now saying that the planned 800 and something billion naira they wanted to use for election is not going to be enough. They're asking for more money. I don't know if you got that story.
The question, so the truth is, INEC asks for more money. Typically, we wouldn't bat an eyelid if the quality of our elections before now have been one that we can judge to be fair, to be pristine, but the quality of our elections have been on the measuring scale, and it hasn't weighed properly. You know, it hasn't weighed in the favor of the integrity of our elections. How can we still be talking about the election that brought in MKO or that should have brought in MKO? How can we still be making reference to that in 2026? So when they ask for more money, of course, I eyelashes would be like, what's going on? Everyone will start batting lashes, but not in a positive way. Anyway, let's tell you now that security agencies have intensified search and rescue operations following the abduction of 4 persons during Tuesday's attack on a purported NECO examination center in Olowa, Dekina Local Government Area of Kogi State. The victims are the school principal, a NECO official, and 2 female examination candidates. The Kogi State government says a multi-agency operation involving the Nigerian Army, Police Department of State, local services, local vigilantes, and hunters is on the way, with advanced technology also deployed to support the search.
Presently, we have blocked all the suspected crossing point where we expect them to move with those children to. 2 children were kidnapped students, including the principal and the supervisor that came for the NECO exam. We kidnapped a total number of 4. And presently, we are still searching them, waiting for their call. They've made some calls so far. We are tracking them to see where they are. I'm assuring you, we are going to rescue those children.
Between the hour of 2 to 3 p.m., we had a gunshot in the community. We now rushed to the scene. When we got there, before we could get to that place, they had gone. And we started tracing their foot mark. But we could not see them again. Not quite long, we were still there. We now saw some students running out of the bush.
Yes, yesterday when it happened, I was just like, I was very sad. When I came out, I can't sleep. My mom was there. I said, am I going to pass this exam? I just don't know. I just don't know how I feel. I just don't know.
It's good to note. Hopefully we'll get our correspondent to join us. We've been trying as much as possible to establish connection, but we have very strong networking issues. It's also good to note that you have security agents and agencies who are up and ready to ensure they bring sanity, security, and protection to the people of Kogi State. Schools seem to be the target, especially of terrorists and the insurgents of recent. It's always been. You remember Chibok and the likes from Chibok up until now. But let's see if we can speak with our correspondent who has been at the forefront covering this particular story in Kogi State. Balagogo joins us this period. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you give us an update into what may have led the security agents to actually speed up the process to ensure that they bring protection to the people?
Hello, good morning to Orleans and Benga. I'm actually live from Dekina, which is not really far from the lower community where the kidnap actually happened. The school area has issues with network, so that is why we are actually here. And to answer your question, the government loves to pride itself, in terms of proactiveness. I do recall that just a few weeks back, we were in Kaba, the local government area, that is in Nuke community, where students were writing rights, examinations, and security operators were able to foil the attack. Of course, there was casualties at that particular local government area. We lost one person, and this time around, we are seeing it raise its head again, despite what we have seen before the situation in Oyo State. So it boils down to government trying to see how they can actually find a way. It seems to be persistent attacks on schools. Yes, we spoke to some of them yesterday. They are even the general, the 12 he's actually at that particular school as we speak right now. They slept there last night and they are still there with the commanding officer of the 21 Battalion.
Well, Mana, we're struggling to hear you clearly. There's a lot of background noise. So if you can speak a bit louder, it was, you know, a bit of a struggle picking some of the things you were saying. But just to confirm, like the state of mind, how is it there? How are they feeling? Kogi State has been through a lot in the recent times, especially with regards to the fight against insecurity. What's the mental state of the citizens over there like?
Well, a lot of them are still reeling, you know, from the attack. The students, their exam, of course, has been interrupted. And it's really concerning because right now, all they are trying to do is to ensure that they rescue those who are still in captivity. So business is moving on as usual. When we got into the community yesterday, people saw farmers in their farms, you know, life just going on, but you could really feel the sense, you know, of that calm and a little bit of tension and a sort of fear, you know, from their countenance as we interacting. Business is moving on as usual, but of course, all hands and all hope, rather, you know, is just all about prayers for the return of things that were captured.
Just to also clarify, has there been any request for ransom? How much is being asked, if yes?
Hello, are you still there?
Yes, we are. I was asking for you to please clarify for us if there has been contact from the kidnappers in terms of ransom, and if yes, has there been a stated amount?
When we spoke with the military yesterday, they told us that there has been always says that they don't want to associate out with terrorists and bandits, but regarding an amount, nothing has been said concerning that. But I have one of the elderly persons in this community who would love to share his experience with us and with our viewers to also unpack, you know, and give us his reaction about what happened. Good morning, sir. Thank you for speaking with us, Central. What is your name? All right, so what is your reaction to the kidnap on Tuesday, and what are your hopes and your thoughts to government?
God will make them capture them, because this issue has not been happening here before. It is a terrible issue. So we are appealing to government to assist us in dealing with them. If not, our people were put in suspense. Movement is restricted because of this issue. So government should come to our aid. If not, we cannot do anything on our own. God bless you.
Can you expand more on the restriction? I can see movements, you know, from around here. Can you talk to us more about the restriction?
It's about movement of people. The movement is restricted now, provided if they can come to town and kidnap people, you understand? Going to farm and market now, people were scared. We are tired. And if we didn't move, how can we eat? So government to assist us in dealing with that. So that we can be free. Because if I want to live with freedom, fight in the cage, need freedom. You understand? We are appealing to government to assist us. So that this issue should stop. They should put final stop on it. Because we've not heard this before. We are hearing this thing at Lagos City, and it's a terrible issue. So government will come to our aid. And with God, they must be captured.
All right, back to you, Oli. Talk about the hopeful.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Manabulabu, for that update. I'm sure we'll get more updates at 12. Viewers and Nigerians can tune in to 12 o'clock for the 12 report with Blessings Mosugu to get more details on updates concerning this abduction. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I rightly said before, we were joined by our correspondent, although I didn't know I look like Benga, by the way. I never knew. I know I have.
Yeah, soon. You know, there's a thing of, by default,
I know.
is muscle memory.
I mean, anyway, just before he joined us, I had mentioned that it seems schools are is the target now. It's always been, but the intensity at which we see schools being the target is alarming. And I think that it's only right that schools that are closer to border areas should receive more attention right now, because unlike schools that are closer to, the urban areas, it's quite different, and it calls for a lot of review.
It then makes us go back to the conversation about the Safe School Initiative and what was the plan with that? Yeah. How successful were we with that? If we find that schools are now becoming, a target, Safe School Initiative was established in 2014 due to Chibok girls, the Chibok girls being kidnapped. And now if we're realizing that the schools are becoming a target, what plans are being put in place? What procedures and strategies are we using to ensure that we do not see more kidnappings as opposed to us then figuring out a way to rescue after the kidnap has occurred? I think that's something to look at. Anyway, we'll go on a very quick break now. When we come back, we do have more. Recall that we have our newspaper front pages. When we review our papers, we'll be taking your phone calls. And we still have the story of a young physiotherapist who died at the residence of the Minister of Works. We're going to break and we'll be right back.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. A final lap. We're counting down to the end of the show, but not just yet until we get a fair share of what the front pages of the newspapers are saying. Plus, your reaction, your call, the number will be there on the screen. Feel free to start calling and let us know what you think about some of the stories we've had and some of the stories we'll be looking at on the front pages of the newspapers. Joining us this morning to analyze the papers, we have the COO of the biggest, you could say, one of the biggest and growing platforms in Nigeria, which looks at sustainability and looks at some of the biggest stories. I wouldn't waste so much energy. I'll let you do the honors to introduce yourself again. I mean, let's let them know who you are.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. My name is Owadi Ahimie. I'm Chief Coordinating Officer for Sustainable Stories Africa.
Yeah. Thank you.
And good morning, Oli.
Good morning.
Well, you see, we're always in...
Great minds think alike.
Great minds think alike.
I don't know what happened today. Even the guests. Even the guests. Well, I don't understand, but it's okay.
All our guests today have one Ankara as well.
Yes, we are in sync.
No, the lesson for me is you have to be unique.
Is this what your African... Anyway, let's
stand out. You stay unique.
I want to change our
unique. Let's go straight to the papers right away. Let's start off with Observer's Times. That will be the first paper we'll look into. Kwankwaso North-Southeast must reconcile now, he says. North-Southeast must reconcile now. The 2027 vice presidential candidate said both regions share a long history of political alliance that should be revived. Inside Balami's 212 billion naira seized empire, ex-AGF loses 48. Olive, how many do you have? How many does the average Nigerian watching us now have in terms of property or ownership of something? Ex-AGF loses 48 luxury, they call it, everything is luxury. Luxury properties to federal government. Let's take that story first. 48. And they said there's more.
So property developer.
he said he got those properties, after working hard. And so.
No. I have no problem with anybody buying properties. But my question is he a real estate agent or a lawyer? Do you understand? And it could be both. So it could be investments for future. It could be investments that will bring.
Which real estate agent has 48 properties and is in government?
Maybe not really. Maybe I don't know. And I'm not going to speculate, but what the news says is that they are his properties. He will forfeit them to the federal government because of the current allegations of fraud and impropriety while he was in governance. So at the end of the day, the question is, as a lawyer, he could be a real estate management agent, which is something that many lawyers go into along with partners who have qualifications in estate management, quantity survey, and so on and so forth. But like we know, the case is in court, so we shouldn't say on anything beyond what the papers have said, that he has allegedly has 48 properties that are going back to the federal government. And if at the end of the case and judgment is passed and is found guilty, then it becomes that those properties will remain in the federal government. But if he doesn't, he's not found guilty of any form of I've lost the words. But any form of wrongdoing, then that's another issue, because I hope the federal government would not just have seized it and taken it over, or they would have sold it, meaning that they will have to compensate him for that. So let's always be patient in how we conclude on issues. So let's wait till there is a judgment against him and he's been found guilty of all alleged crimes. And then, yeah, forfeiture becomes complete, except there is a plea bargain deal, which I don't think was stated here. And I don't believe that they've come to that, because the former Attorney General has continued to plead his innocence, and until proven guilty, he's innocent. My learned colleague.
Let's look at Observer's Times. We just took the story not quite long ago. Gunmen storm Kogi School during NECO, abduct principal and students.
Another sad incident, this time in Kogi State. I don't know. First and foremost, we don't do enough for education. Now our children, parents, children are scared to go write exams that would help them prepare for the next stages of their lives. I think it was on your news channel that I saw a documentary on the school security program, like a short cap of it, and it just beats me if we spend so many hundreds of billions on trying to protect Nigerians, and every day, every single day, what we find is Nigerians are still being taken, some on the streets, some on their journeys. Now, our children, I don't know how many they are now, but as that, I saw somewhere that just this year, or in the last 1 year, about 1,700 children have been kidnapped from schools. There are those who were kidnapped in the north that have not been brought back, thank God. So much relief have come back to the families of those who were kidnapped in Oyo State, and we're grateful for that. But it's become the norm in a country where this should be abnormal, and every security agent, every government agency should be calling out the level of insecurity that we have in Nigeria. But it's just now like, okay, it's another one. We would see how long these children, but it's scary that our children are writing their final exams to prepare for them for the next stages of their lives. And people walk into those schools, carry their principal. So what value is it for you to say your children go to school? And unfortunately, like I always say, those who are in the corridors of power, if they didn't go through school, they probably won't be where they are. So it's just an unfortunate incident again.
All right. We'll look at more stories on the front pages of the papers. Oyo abduction, Senate votes 50 million naira compensation for bereaved families. The one thing we need to know is if 50 million each.
Per family,
or it's just 50 million to share.
Well, maybe they will give us the final details when they come to the... Now, and the question, the second question for me will be this. If Senate is voting it, where is it coming out in the appropriation? I know there are some miscellaneous lines for this kind of things. So they also need to tell us that. And like you said, is it 50 million per family? There were about, how many? About 50? No, three families that lost loved ones.
Yeah.
So is it 50 million per family, or 50 million to be shared among the three families? But the truth of it for me is no amount of money can change that loss. No amount of money. What we need to do as a country is to ensure that we improve on how we provide security for Nigerians as a whole, and it's just become disappointing that every day we've just heard about the Kogi one now, and it's disappointing every day that this is what we're beginning to read in newspapers. For a long time, we had said that the press was not covering this properly enough, and I'm glad that they're doing a lot more now. maybe in the first 2.5 years of this administration, we didn't see a lot of it come out, despite the fact we got feelers and news from different platforms on killings, kidnappings, and ransom paying. I watched a documentary also in, I think, between 2020, the spanning 2024 and 2025, over 2.5 billion was spent for ransom, of which that amounts about 700 million came from just one family. So these are the realities that we
can imagine that, the price and everything. Let's move on to our next paper. But before we do that, I know we have a break to go to, but let's see.
But did you touch on that Borno troops nab pregnant woman supplying terrorists?
Yeah, we just tied that into the whole insecurity conversation. Let's see our next paper.
Congratulations to the troops for doing that.
Yes, yes.
And must always give them kudos where
absolutely where they are working,
where they continue to work, and they are successful in bringing some level of calm tonight.
Let's see another paper very quickly. Let's go to our next
Punch.
paper. Let's go to our next paper.
On the front page of the Punch newspaper, the big story that we see there: fake agency scandal, Atiku presidency clash as Senate rejects fresh probe.
I think that's the biggest story.
Fake agency controversy deepens as fresh calls for probe arise. Ex-VP challenges 1.3 billion naira agency fund, calls for independent probe. Queries World Cup 6.4 billion naira budget. Presidency fires back at Atiku, backs ICPC probe of scandal. We'll take more stories on the front page shortly, but let's quickly take this call. Victor is calling from Abuja. Bonjour, Victor. Ekaro. Senu. I missed the Igbo one. Good morning, Victor.
Yeah, good morning.
Tutuoma. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm in Gala by tribe.
These are the new ones I know. Please, how do they say good morning in your tribe?
Yeah, all would do.
Okay, thank you very much for teaching us that. Good morning. Please go ahead with your comments.
There is something that happened in my local government 3 days ago. So some students are kidnapped and the principal. So I don't know how our security are operating there now, because like some of our area boys, they follow them to the bush, but they bring army to them, but we never hear anything from them. We never hear any result.
So are you saying your area boys are still in the bush? You haven't seen them?
Yeah, some of them, they are still in the bush, because when these people come, most of our people, they thought that there is a bandit, because some Hausa people, then they fight for their things. So some people thought that is Fulani people. Before we know, our village people, they tried, because they accused about 7 girls, about 7 students. So before they zoom away with the other people, so I want you people to help us to talk to our governor, Governor Usman Odudu, because the way security is going down, kidnapping every day, we are tired.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, it was a struggle to hear that.
Yeah, we're struggling to hear, but I think it was saying that we're talking about the kidnap, and I think he added killings or something that's ongoing there in Kogi State. I think we have a lot. We have a lot to look into. But let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take more stories on the front pages of the Punch newspaper. Stay with us. All right, so attention is now shifting away from Oyo State to another particular state of concern, which is Kogi State. And it has dominated the headlines. You did hear from our report. If you just tuned in, well, you may have missed that. But we do have in-house here Wade Ahime, who's analyzing the stories on the front pages. Well, let's take this call all the way from Igala. It seems Kogi State is taking the central stage, like we said. Good morning. Thank you so much for calling in on Breakfast Central.
Hello, good morning.
Turn down the volume of your TV set before you call so we can have a conversation.
All right.
Please go ahead.
Hello.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, please, I am from Kogi State. And seriously, I am begging the governor and the federal government to end all these things there to help us. Because it's not funny. Children's lives are being endangered. Every day now they are looking for soft targets. I'm not talking about Igala generally, but generally in the country. Children's lives are being risked all the time. Please, I'm begging the federal government and Ododo, I know he's working very well. More grease to his elbow. He should please help. He should please help. Please, please, I am begging, I'm begging. In the name of God, I'm begging, please. I don't have any strength, no power to do anything, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Citizens have come to the level of begging government.
Wow. It will shock you that just a few months back, Kogi State had no issues with insecurity. Kogi State had no issues with. In short, I have a friend who said investments were about to be on the way to Kogi State because of, his business. And one of the things he listed on the investment portfolio was Kogi is highly secured. That when you hear of insecurity cases bordering other states within Kogi axis, you would not hear of Kogi. But look at Kogi now.
And it's quite amazing for me. Why? Because we all know that this is secondary school exam periods. A lot of the children are going to go on holidays. Some of them have already started going on holidays. But this is where you're writing NECO, and NECO doesn't finish for another couple of weeks. And yeah, like you said, there are fewer people around, fewer children in school, but that's just the easy target because there are even fewer security. So what exactly are we doing? And I hope what has happened in Kogi State is not going to translate to other states. And we sit every day and we're just like, okay, we'll rescue them. Oh, okay, they will come back. How? How do you protect? I remember growing up, you say we are the leaders of tomorrow. How can these expected leaders of tomorrow of Nigeria start their lives by living in fear, in danger, not knowing whether they can walk the roads, or stay in there? And why do you think more and more families are keeping their children at home?
Let's take this call. We have Uche calling from Lagos. Uche, good morning. Okay, from Abia, I beg your pardon, not from Lagos, from Abia State. Uche, good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah. Let me, talk about what really happened yesterday in the National Assembly. Akpabio, roll out, is it 50 million to the victims of Orire adoption? My question is, what of other adoptions? Our military men have been dying. What have the National Assembly under Akpabio done to the bereaved ones? For instance, 9 members of one family were killed in the Plateau. Am I right? Hello?
Yes.
What did this assembly do? Nothing. Even in Benue, we are still remembering how many people that have died in Benue. Our military officers have been dying in regards to fighting insecurity. And just because, for me, they did it because Mr. President is from Southwest. That is my own opinion, not a general opinion. Because on their mandate, they have been thinking on their mandate to stand. Are you telling me those in the military that are fighting this war, if they will be happy what the National Assembly, the Senate, precisely, have done? Focus their attention on Orire. People have been dying. Both in Kogi, we are talking about what has happened in Kogi. What are they doing? What are they going to still do for these people that have died and the bereaved ones? That is my question this morning. God bless you, people.
Thank you very much for that.
Valid questions.
And extremely valid questions. And the question also brings about the issue of how many 50 millions do we want to pay? Why don't we just ensure that these monies were trying? So let's say there are three families in Orire and all the other families. So if we calculate them, and I don't know how many, 1,700 children over a year. I hope we've lost families, we've lost members. So if we say 100 Nigerians, that's 50 times 100, that's 500 million. Why don't you just put it into working for the security in Nigeria? Why? Why are we going to be spending money, paying people because you have refused to do your work? So how many people do you want to give 50 million? How many families do you want to give them, their loved ones who are mourning 50 million? Why don't we create an environment where people can get jobs and it's decent, where people can walk around the streets and live in their homes without fear, rather than every kidnap and every loss that we have from something that can be preventable, we are doling out money. Money, you know, is not it. And there's a popular saying, and I heard it growing up on one of Sonny Ade's songs, in your Lashowa, that means it's human beings that clothe us. It's not money.
The caller asked a very vital question, which I'd like us to take before we move to our next, because we have a lot of stories on the front page of the Punch. He said, how does the Senate want the military to feel, those who engaged in the rescue? It sounds like a question that you shouldn't even think about.
Yeah, but that's the point.
But if you think about it,
why do you want the military to think if you could take those monies
and giving it to the people who have been rescued?
Why do we even have to go to that state of getting people or trying to get people rescued almost every day? We've just come out of Orire. We are here in Kogi. The caller from Kogi also mentioned, we didn't really hear him well, but from some of the things I heard, 7 people were taken away.
Yeah, we have our reporter who took that story. But we have another caller. Akinyele calls us. Akinyele calls us from Lagos. Yes. Good morning.
Yeah, I just want to contribute to your.
Please go ahead.
To your topic this morning.
Go on.
I believe the problem presently now is that these kidnappers are taking advantage of the poor facilities around our schools all over the country. What are the governors doing with the budget year by year concerning education? I can see the way you are showing the videos. Look at that type of school that has nothing, no window. They just use planks to divide the window here and there. No fencing, no perimeter fencing of that particular school. And now, because they have now seen that the only target they can gather, the kidnappers have started to focus on school environment, on innocent children, for ransom. Look at this type of school you are showing. And this is a governor is in this type of state where this type of school is. And they have a commissioner of education. I know what I'm saying. And they have their school boards. Look at, it's wrong. I believe when we are blaming the federal government, equally we should blame the governors because they are not doing the right thing. They are not doing the right thing. They are just opening the innocent citizens for problems. So I will suggest that the federal government should at least, in each of the schools now, let there be security details in each of the schools in each of the states. If they don't have enough, let them recruit. Let them recruit more military to be able to man these schools for now, at least for now to stem this particular side of kidnapping. I pray that God Almighty will help Nigeria in Jesus' name. But the president cannot see everything. He cannot be everywhere. That's why he has representatives. He has Ministry of Defense. He has all the defense, all the military apparatus. He has the governor. The governor too have his own details. So I pray that God will see us through in this country. It is well. Because the life of innocent people are at stake now. Many students will not want to go back to school. And we will say we are breeding trans. We are breeding gangs. They are all over the world. Which is not the best thing. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Wow, a lot. Let's go back to the Punch newspaper. Police Service Commission unveils 50,000 police recruits. They've been able to reach the 50,000. The president said he was going to ensure that they are recruited into the police system. PSA unveils 50,000 police recruits. Page 17 has that story. Under it, State Police UK backs reforms as NAS lists safeguards. Of course, we know part of the reforms, and part of it is, the State Police, each state, the governor will now be the State Security Chief, State Security Officer. You have the charge, you can control and everything. But will State Police solve what we are dealing with now? Because it seems like pretty much everybody in the incumbent are saying, yes, the solution has finally arrived, the final mixture.
Today is just one of those days that, you start the day on just a sad note, and sometimes some of these things have to get to you, not because we all have, but we have children, not just by us, but around us. And when you say state policing, yes, it would try and improve it, but policing is about where you create an enabling environment for a number of things. Educated people and people who go into school, because where you involve the community to ensure that they are all part. Policing is not just the man on the police force. It's everybody within a community. It says it takes a community or it takes a village to train someone. However, what we're beginning to see is that we are having villages become independent, and within those villages, we are having people become just independent, me, myself, and I, or me, my family, and I. So, yes, you might bring in state police. The other question is, how do you fund it? In a country where even when everybody asks, what happens to our security votes, part of those security votes is to ensure that you work with a system that you have towards ensuring that the security architecture and systems working in your state, are you with me, from local to, it drives from community into the local governments and then into the state, which will now translate into the national system. But we don't even have enough police within a system. If you recruited another 50,000, I don't even know whether we have up to 1 million people in the police force. Okay. It's just not going in the direction
that you planned. Yeah. Let's quickly take a call. We have a call from Imobi, who's calling from Ebonyi State. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling, Imobi.
All right.
Oh, unfortunately, that call cannot connect. We'll go on a very quick break. When we return from the break, we'll take a few more calls, and then you can head to YouTube now. We will start to take comments from YouTube when we return from this break. We're streaming live via News Central TV Live. We'll be right back. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, before we went on the break, we said we're going to take comments on YouTube. We're streaming live via News Central TV Live. Regarding insecurity and state police, we have a comment here from Mokunye Chukwemeka. He says, the country cannot afford to have security agents in all schools. Let's be honest. Improve on the lives of your citizens and watch crime reduce, but thieves in government won't let it. Osas says, state police would worsen the situation. Governors that cannot build or renovate schools, that's the same governor that will finance state police. Nigeria, wake up, Osas says. These are some of the comments that we've heard regarding, or that we're seeing regarding what's happened in, what's happening in our country and the insecurity challenge. Now, I want us to quickly take a few more stories, and before we wrap up, take the story of the young woman who died in the custody of the Minister of Works. Still on the front page of the Punch newspaper, poverty threatens 79% of Nigerians despite reforms. According to the World Bank, Tinubu to attend UN General Assembly in September. Okay, Joe has mentioned this one. We have at the bottom of the paper, South Africa attacks. Federal government completes evacuation, brings 1,590 Nigerians home. Welcome back to these ones. I hope that they are able to integrate into the society. I can't imagine how their lives will change in the next few months. World Cup, Argentina beat England, face Spain in final.
Sunday is going to be a cracker.
It's going to be hot. 6 killed as gas truck explodes at Kogi Army checkpoint. Kogi is going through.
Kogi is going through a lot, too.
Honestly.
Kogi
Court orders federal government takeover of 48 properties linked to Malemi. Malemi's woes are far from over, it would seem. But let's get your final thoughts on this before we go to the Dave Umahi story. Let's get your final thoughts on, you know, the current, I think the latest story regarding, there was one I wanted us to talk about.
Which one, the IMF?
No, South Africans. Nigerians being returned back to the country, 1,490.
No, the Dave Umahi story, we'll do that tomorrow.
No, he will just touch on it a little. Let's just get it.
So let's go there.
No. I wanted him to just wrap up. Do you have any thoughts on the South Africa?
Because of the xenophobia, yes, it's good they're coming back home. But in the first instance for me is, why are Nigerians running all over the world? I saw something yesterday, a young Nigerian lady scored 4.9 and became a medical doctor in Russia. These are things that never used to happen when I was growing up. Instead, people were coming to Nigerian schools to come and get a proper education. So we need to focus on that education. We really need to focus on education and ensure that we bring our country back to the standards that we have. Let's go to the Dave Umahi.
Okay, so now let's go to the Dave Umahi story. So there's a young woman, the summary of it, Mary Habila is a 26-year-old physiotherapist. She was described by the Works Minister Dave Umahi's office as being seconded to the Federal Ministry of Works from David Umahi Federal University of Health Sciences. She died on the 27th of June 2026 at his residence in Uburu, Ebonyi State. Umahi's aide, Francis Mwezi, confirmed the death and said Umahi called for an autopsy and said that the family initially declined it. But there have been multiple outlets that report, and this is where it gets twisted, the fact that she was found unclothed when her body was removed from the residence. So the question is, what led to her being unclothed? What led to her being naked when she was removed from the residence of the minister? And now this has become a controversy, and many are asking what really happened to Mary Habila. And, you know, again, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, is in the center of the storm. Let's get your thoughts.
So for me, first and foremost, there must be a thorough investigation. And there shouldn't be anybody pushing and poking in different directions to ensure that that investigation is fair, free, and done independently. On the question of being unclothed, what will a woman who is seconded to the Federal Ministry or a physiotherapist who is seconded? I read somewhere else that he said, oh, he was seconded to his home because he asked for some form of physiotherapy. Is it that he was seconded to come and work as a physiotherapist in Dave Umahi's house? These are questions that need to be answered. And first and foremost, it needs to be won by Dave Umahi himself, those who live within the confines of Dave Umahi's house, so that we can actually find out what the truth was. And if she was found bleeding, was it that someone intentionally killed her? Or something happened and there was nobody around? So we don't know, and I cannot speculate. So the only thing I would say is this: let the investigating authorities do a thorough investigation. If there's a need to bring in independent specialists, please let them do that so that we can find out the truth about it. Because the loss of a 26-year-old is, I can feel it, because I have a child that is almost 26.
It's sad, and we look forward to unravel this conversation.
We'll have it as a proper conversation.
It's our top story tomorrow, and we've been following it.
Experts who can really talk about it, but the truth is there must be a detailed investigation.
But we hear that the family already have released a statement that she'll be buried very soon. There also calls for autopsy.
And there also calls for the minister to step aside while investigation is being carried out. But it doesn't seem that we have a culture in our country, a moral culture that allows public office holders who have been accused to step aside. The law take its course, and if they are found clean, they'll be reinstated, and whoever instigated that wrongful rumor will then be prosecuted. We've seen it several times with Bajabiamila, for example. He's in the eye of the storm. He said that he's not involved in this, but then again, he's made the chair of the State Police Implementation Committee almost, and many interpret that as reward for bad behavior. Because if your hands are clean, step aside, let them do the investigation, and then when they find you clean, you come back into office. No new appointments should be made. But what's even worse here is that someone's life is at stake. Well, in both scenarios or both allegations, lives have been lost. There's a man who died in what many have termed a suspicious circumstance, and now there's a young lady who has died in a suspicious circumstance. So those who are calling for the Minister of Works to step aside for the moment whilst the investigation is going on, do you think they're acting or the call is out of order?
No, it's not. And it's the same way you ask someone who is not performing or who allegations have been brought against to say, you know what, let's do an investigation, because you are part of the parcel of the investigation being carried out, so you are going to be questioned about it. Are you now going to tell me that someone died in the Minister of Works house, he's not going to be called in for questioning to say his part and how that person became or came into his home? Because he's not going to be unaware, except he says he's unaware of that woman being in his home. And he hasn't said that. He hasn't said that. So he must step aside. And in reality, if he were a well-functioning administration, he would actually be put on suspension. Because he should be.
You know, this is not the first time. There were accusations by the certain woman. I mean, we're out of time. We're going to look at this holistically.
Yeah, and for me, this has become the norm in the last
4-8 years. No,
it's become the norm since this democracy started in 1999. When people call people out, the only government that actually even tried to do something
was the military.
No.
Was it?
Was the late
Yaradua or
no, NAFDAC woman, when she had some allegations.
Yeah.
And they told her, you know what, you step aside. And independent investigations were carried out, and it came back with a report. I read that report. First Bank was part of it, and all. And they provided all the documents. So what are we hiding?
What are we afraid of? I'm going to wrap up. We're going to close with this comment by Mokunye Chukwuemeka. He says, why has the minister not been arrested? Why? He then goes on to say, this is the quote that I completely agree with. He says, we have strong men and weak institutions in this country.
Yeah.
And that is what it is.
Period.
It goes without saying that if a person has been found naked in your house, that you have naked and dead, that there are questions that need to be answered. So this one is not something that you would just allow due process or allow time. I mean, you should allow due process or allow time take its course. The minister needs to address Nigerians. The police need to address Nigerians and tell Nigerians what happened, how far they have gone with the investigation. And this is a matter that will not be swept under carpet, as it will be our top story tomorrow. So join us for Breakfast Central. We're back same time, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And thank you for joining us. Thank you to everyone who engages with us virtually. The trio will be complete tomorrow. Benga will be back. But from us,
we sent him to buy a car for us. He'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you.